This documentary follows the story of environmental violations at a gravel pit owned by the city of Monticello, Illinois, as well as attempts by elected officials to keep these violations from the public, questionable payments and accounting, statements by the city superintendent Floyd Alsop that contradict the facts, auditor statements that contradict Freedom of Information responses issued by the city, and questionable invoices from and payments to an engineering consultant. Part 1. Illinois Environmental Protection Agency violations. In the 1990s, the city of Monticello, population 5,500, was given a depleted quarry and gravel pit for potential use as a recreation site. The pit sits over the Mahomet Aquifer, a major source of drinking water for numerous communities in central Illinois. What did the city do with it? They used it as a dump and area for open burning. In late 2012, several Monticello residents learned through a Freedom of Information Act request, otherwise known as a FOIA, submitted to the Illinois EPA that the city of Monticello was charged with 29 environmental violations at the gravel pit. Those Illinois EPA documents noted that in November 2010, IEPA official Jennifer O'Hearn informed Monticello Superintendent of City Services Floyd Alsop of environmental violations at the quarry pit. 2 months later, in January 2011, using certified mail, the IEPA sent a violation notice to Monticello's Mayor Corey and the aldermen. The FOIA documents show that the most significant violations dealt with lack of inspecting or testing the dumped debris for volatile organic compounds, which can have adverse health effects. Interestingly, Mayor Corey and the 8 aldermen apparently never received the IEPA's violation notice, according to a later comment by city officials. After the city's receptionist signed for a certified mail delivery, it went missing. While City Superintendent Alsop knew about the violations, it's unclear who else knew. Finally, in October 2011, 10 months after the violation notice went missing, the IEPA sent another violation notice via certified mail to the alderman and Mayor Corey, this time sent directly to Mayor Corey's home. In December 2011, 13 months after Superintendent Alsop was made aware of violations, Alsop wrote to the IEPA admitting violating environmental regulations. Neither Mayor Corey nor the aldermen were copied on Alsop's letter. On January 14, 2013, over a year after the original violation notice went missing, a resident reported the violations at a city council meeting. An alderman, Lyle Murdoch, admitted to not knowing about these violations. Until then, public officials had never informed the public of the violations, nor of the ongoing expenditures of taxpayer money for environmental engineering required for remediation. Part 2. Engineering required for the Illinois EPA violations. Prior to the violations becoming public knowledge, engineering work was ongoing in accordance with the IEPA remediation requirements. City Superintendent Alsop issued contracts totaling $65,000 to Foth, a local engineering firm. Copies of these contracts, obtained through a FOIA request to the city, show the contracts didn't mention engineering services for IEPA violations. Through a FOIA request, invoices issued by Foth were also obtained. All contracts showed that fees were based purely on payroll plus expenses with monthly billing. One contract for $20,000 was signed on April 13, 2011 by Mr. Larry Johnson, licensed professional engineer, and by Superintendent Alsop on April 14th, the next day. The next day, April 15th, Foth issued an invoice, noted as a retainer, for 2 days of professional services for that very day, as well as the previous day, April 14th and 15th, for the full amount of the $20,000 contract. This smells. In response to concerned citizens' FOIA requests to the City of Monticello regarding, quote, retainers, end quote, City Superintendent Alsop responded, quote, I am not aware of the use of retainers by the city of Monticello, regardless of what was listed on the FOIA invoices, end quote. City Superintendent Alsop approved over $23,000 worth of, quote, retainers, end quote. This really smells. Also obtained through a FOIA request to the city were numerous invoices to the city labeled as, quote, draft invoices, end quote, sent by FOIA. One draft invoice dated September 18, 2012 states, quote, amount due this invoice is $0, end quote. However, the invoice also showed a total of over $6,000 due, and the invoice listed the preparation of a report to the IEPA regarding the violations at the pit. Also included in this draft invoice are costs from a laboratory for testing groundwater samples. FOIA submitted 13 draft invoices in 2012, totaling over $23,000, all apparently for work on the gravel pit. No final invoices, none, were ever apparently submitted or requested by Mr. Alsop, the city bookkeeper, or the auditor, Mr. Stephen Groney, a CPA. Based on information received via FOIA requests to the city, citizens could find no entry of these draft invoices into the city's official accounting software. As a result, the draft invoices apparently didn't appear in claims reports generated by the city's accounting software. Claims reports are available for public viewing and approved by the aldermen at each city council meeting, allowing payment to consultants, vendors, and suppliers. By draft invoices apparently not appearing on claims reports, aldermen and the public wouldn't know about those costs. Through a FOIA request to the city, the citizens obtained an email written by Mr. Michael Strath, then with FOIA and now employed at Farnsworth Group in Champaign, in which he wrote, quote, as I understand it, this credit was negotiated in response to the elevated water tower resolution and is intended to offset the wastewater treatment plant facility plan we prepared, which I believe was about $34,000. Wondering what this credit referenced and if it was related to the draft invoices in any way, the citizens requested the credit offer, terms and conditions, and the signed document from the city of Monticello. Superintendent also responded, quote, no such document exists, end quote. The resolution that Mr. Struff was apparently referencing was related to a prior water tower construction project involving FOIA, whereby the tower was constructed short of the required design height. Per the agreement, in January 2013, FOIA paid the city $30,000 for the height defect. The question then arose, why would FOIA owe the city money related to the shortened water tower and issue a credit? Another question arose. Were these draft invoices used for disguising the costs related to the IEPA violations and possibly gaining favor with Mr. Alsop? A large engineering contract worth about $1 million toward a new wastewater treatment plant was already on the horizon. Part 3, the annual audit. The firm of May, Cocaine, and King has been performing Monticello's annual audit for over 18 years. The concerned citizens didn't see any mention of accounting irregularities in that year's audit report or during the auditor's presentation to the City Council, both obtained via FOIA to the city. Included are portions of the audio of the presentation made to the City Council meeting by Auditor Stephen Groney, CPA and partner with the accounting firm.
And we obviously look at both very closely.
The first voice is Superintendent Alsop's, the second is Mr. Groney's.
And we went over the invoices and the one that had the 2 days on it that keeps being referred to and as a retainer and that type of thing. And you're comfortable with everything that you observed, everything that you looked at?
I don't recall that invoice in particular.
You may have been able to hear that Mr. Groney said that he didn't recall that invoice. It's shown here again. Here are a few questions a CPA might have asked. Why was there a $20,000 retainer payment? The city doesn't use this method to pay for professional services, nor was it allowed by the contract. If, as City Superintendent Alsop claimed, it wasn't a retainer, then what services did the city receive for $10,000 a day?
The credit was noted in the minutes as well multiple times.
Mr. Groney mentioned that the credit was referred to several times in meeting minutes. However, in response to a FOIA request to the city for these meeting minutes, Mr. Alsop responded, quote, "No such documents exist," end quote. A few more questions a CPA might have asked. 1. Where is the written document signed by both parties for the $34,000 credit as mentioned by Mr. Streff in his email? 2. Into which account in the city's accounting software was this credit transaction entered? 3. The dictionary defines draft to mean a preliminary version, so when will FOTH supply the final invoices? Mr. Groney requested a summary of the draft invoices from FOTH and used these to determine what was to be capitalized. Upcoming is an audio clip from a closed city council meeting deemed partially illegal under the Open Meetings Act by the Illinois Attorney General. This audio was obtained via a FOIA request to the city. The comments do not reflect positively on Auditor Groney.
We got to get a new auditor, obviously.
And our attorneys just giving us bad information too. It's this meeting's illegal. Anybody can tell you.
Part 4. Questioning the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation regarding the conduct of the licensed engineers and auditor and whether it met ethical and professional standards. Based on information, some of it included here, the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation chose not to sanction the engineers, the auditor, nor their respective firms. From FOIA requests, the citizens learned that the department apparently never contacted the city of Monticello to substantiate the documentation provided in the complaint or ask for clarification. On January 13th, 2017, 3 years after one of the complaints was initially filed, Mr. Lou Mago, an attorney with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, verbally stated that the complaint was closed. No written notification or rationale for the findings was provided. Mr. Schneider, a CPA and member of the department's executive team, didn't respond to inquiries. Neither the engineers, Larry Johnson and Michael Streff, nor David Brown, managing partner of Mako, Kane & King, nor former Mayor Corey responded to inquiries. City Superintendent Alsop retired and received a very generous severance package that included approximately 5 years of taxpayer-funded health insurance until he reaches age 65. Fortunately, no groundwater contamination was found at the pit. Meanwhile, the total cost to the taxpayer for environmental engineering and work to restore the pit will never be known.